अस्सलाम वालेकुम। ऑल अबाउट क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजी यूट्यूब चैनल में मैं आप सबको खुश आमदीद कहती हूँ। और स्टैटिस्टिक्स के पास्ट पेपर्स जो कि सॉल्व किए गए हैं BZU एनुअल सिस्टम से, उस वीडियो का पार्ट 5 है ये। इसमें हम अनोवा को एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। अनोवा और सभी जो टेस्ट हैं क्लिनिकल साइकोलॉजी में ये यूज़ होते हैं, उनको मैं उर्दू में भी अलग वीडियोस बनाऊंगी, उर्दू में उनको एक्सप्लेन करूंगी। तो प्लीज़ अगर आपको मेरी ये एफ़र्ट जो है वो पसंद आ रही है, आप कुछ सजेशंस देना चाहते हैं कुछ भी, तो प्लीज़ मेरी वीडियो को लाइक ज़रूर कीजिए और कमेंट में बताइए जो भी आप सजेशन देना चाहते हैं, कुछ कहना चाहते हैं। तो प्लीज़ मेरे चैनल को ज़रूर शेयर कीजिए, सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, लाइक कीजिए और कमेंट कीजिए। थैंक यू। तो चलिए क्वेश्चन नंबर 74 से स्टार्ट करते हैं, जो कि अनोवा के बारे में है। फॉर द कंपैरिजन ऑफ मल्टीपल मीन्स, यानी अनोवा में हम मल्टीपल मीन्स जो हैं उनका कंपैरिजन करते हैं। क्वेश्चन नंबर 74 है वन वे एंड टू वे अनोवा। इसमें हम वन वे और टू वे अनोवा को एक्सप्लेन करेंगे। There are many forms of ANOVA, each of which is appropriate to the nature of the data being analyzed and the specific objectives of the analysis. The simplest of these is one-way ANOVA and two-way ANOVA, which is complex than the one-way. In one-way ANOVA, the classification is made on the basis of single factor, and the objective is to determine whether there are significant differences between the means of several categories of a single factor. An example would be the mean income of accountants, economists, and statisticians. The response variable that we are concerned about is income. The classification is on the basis of one factor. That factor is professional group. In two-way ANOVA, the classification is made on the basis of two factors, say professional groups and gender. If we are interested in determining whether or not mean incomes are different between male and female economists, accountants, and lawyers, we will proceed with two-way ANOVA. Next question is question number 75. What are ANOVA assumptions? There are three assumptions for ANOVA, same as t-test. Number 1 पे है, the observations within each sample must be independent. Number 2 पे है, the populations from which the samples are selected must be normal. Number 3 पे है, the populations from which the samples are selected must have equal variances. For example, homogeneity of variance. Question number 76 है, the relationship between ANOVA and t-test, कि इन दोनों के बीच में क्या रिलेशन है। When you have data from an independent measures experiment with only two treatment conditions, you can use either a t-test or an independent measures ANOVA. In practical terms, it makes no difference which you choose. These two statistical techniques always will result in the same statistical decision. In fact, the two methods use many of the same calculations and are very closely related in several other respects. The basic relationship between T statistics and F ratios can be stated small n, n equation. F is equal to T square. क्वेश्चन नंबर 77 है, डिफाइन द डिफरेंट मेजर्स ऑफ वेरिएबिलिटी और डिस्पर्शन। मेजर्स ऑफ डिस्पर्शन है, द डिग्री टू विच न्यूमेरिकल डाटा tend to spread about an average value is called variation or dispersion or variability. Types of measures of dispersion. There are two types of measures of dispersion. Number 1, absolute measure of dispersion. Number 2, relative measures of dispersion. Number 1 पे है, what is absolute measures of dispersion? It is defined as the dispersion which measures the variation present between the values in the unit of the variable. इसकी definition number 2 है, it measures the amount of dispersion in a set of observations in the same units as the units of original observations. For example, the mean height of college students is 64 inches, where inches are the units of measurement. Then the unit of measure of dispersion will also be inches. The common absolute measures are range, number 2 quartile deviation, number 3 mean deviation, number 4 standard deviation. नंबर 2 पे है रिलेटिव मेजर ऑफ डिस्पर्शन. डेफिनेशन नंबर 1 है, it is defined as the dispersion which measure the variation present between the values relative to their average. It is used to compare the variation between two or more sets of data. It is in the form of ratio or present age. इसकी definition number 2 है, it measures the amount of dispersion in a set of observations free of the units in which the original data is measured and is expressed in the form of ratio, coefficient or percentages. If original data is in inches, then in relative measure of dispersion, we shall not use inches. For each absolute measure of dispersion, a relative measure can be calculated. Relative dispersion is equal to absolute dispersion by average. As we cannot always use the absolute measure of dispersion for comparison of two or more sets of the observations, so to compare dispersion of two distributions expressed in different unit of measurement, and to compare dispersion of two distributions expressed in identical unit of measurements but different average or central values, we use a relative measure of dispersion. The important areas, number 1, coefficient of dispersion or coefficient of the range. Number 2, coefficient of quartile deviation or quartile coefficient of dispersion. Number 3, coefficient of mean deviation or mean coefficient of dispersion. Number 4, coefficient of standard deviation or standard coefficient of dispersion. Number 5, coefficient of variation.